PCAG shall be headed by Assistant Commissioner SG28 of the BOC, duly appointed by the President of the Philippines upon recommendation of the Commissioner of Custom through the Secretary of Finance. The Assistant Commissioner shall exercise direct supervision and control in the management of the two operating units under PCAG, PCAG-TRAO, Post-Clearance Audit Group, Trade Information and Risk Analysis Office. PCAG-TRAO is to be headed by a Director, second, SG26, and supported by the two divisions, which are the Trade Information Analysis Division 1 and Division 2. PCAG-CAO, or Post-Clearance Audit Compile Assessment Office. PCAG-CAO is to be headed by the Director to SG26 and supported by the 5 division which comprise of Audit Division 1 to Division 5. PCAG-TRAO will review available trade data to determine compliance, make of industry or means of data groupings, and set benchmark for the purpose of developing an audit program for a commissioner approval, while PCAG-CAO will prepare audit work plan and scope and approach for approved priority audit candidates. The PCAG-TRAO are the maker while the PCAG-CAO are the doer. According to the subsection 1.3 under Section 1 of CMO 37-2017, the personnel that were responsible to complement in this unit under PCAG must consist of those previously assigned or former custom officer assigned by the Post-Clearance Audit Group. This has to do in terms of selecting and identifying them through the Commissioner with the approval of the Secretary of Finance. There must be an appropriate customs personnel orders issued in order to ensure that there were sufficient number of the personnel that were assigned at the PCAG.
The authority of the Commissioner to recognize the PCAG. The Commissioner is also authorized to recommend necessary changes to the PCAG's personnel and staffing pattern, subject to the principles of economy, efficiency, and effectiveness, and to submit the same for evaluation to the Department of Budget and Management with the approval of Secretary of Finance or DBM. The Commissioner is also authorized to recommend necessary changes to the PCAG's personnel and staffing pattern, subject to the principles of economy, efficiency, and effectiveness, and to submit the same for evaluation to the Department of Budget and Management with the approval of Secretary of Finance or DBM. Within 3 years after the date of final payment of duties and taxes or customs clearance, the PCAG is required to perform an audit examination, inspection, verification, and investigation of records relevant to any goods declaration. This includes statements, declarations, documents, and electronically generated or machine-readable data used to verify the accuracy of the goods declaration and determine the importer's liability for duties and taxes and other charges such as fines or penalties.
Good day to you, sir, and to the people who is viewing this. I am tasked to report the function of PCAG. But before I start, allow me to introduce myself. I am Victor Cyron MANGLICMOT, a BSA student of the Holy Cross of Davao College, Year 3. The PCAG is mandated to conduct within 3 years from the date of final payment of duties and taxes or customs clearance, an audit examination, inspection, verification, and investigation of records pertaining to any goods declaration, which shall include statements, declaration, documents, and electronically generated or machine-readable data, for the purpose of ascertaining of the correctness of the goods declaration and determining the liability of importer for duties and taxes and other charges including any fine or penalty. There are two main components of PCAG, and these are the PCAG-TERAO, which is the Trade Information and Risk Analysis Office, and PCAG-CAO, which is known as the Custom Administrative Order. Let us go first to the PCAG-TERAO. The PCAG-TERAO shall perform the following function. A. Review available data trade. Review available data trade is to determine the compliance markers of industry commonly defined as the buying and selling of goods and services for profit that is subjected for reviewing. And it is set benchmark for the purpose of developing an audit program for the Commissioner's approval. Basically, the person who use data trade are the governments, corporations, manufacturers, law firms, trade association, and international organization all use trade data to monitor the commodity markers relevant to their interests. The BOC review all the available data that is found to be existing in the Bureau in terms of the data, particularly in imported commodities that were entered in the customs territory. In this case, the available data were on the process of review as they analyze the record of each person or the company that falls under the candidates for the customs audit. Thus, they are responsible to focus more on pre-audit research of auditees. They seek the specific risk area and then they were creating audit plan. Let's proceed to B. Develop a computer-aided risk-based management system. In coordination with the Management Information System and Group, develop a computer-aided risk-based management system, the parameters of which are to be based on objective and quantitable data, subjected to the approval of the Secretary of Finance upon recommendation of the Commissioner, for use in the profiling and identification of potential priority audit candidate based on the approved audit program. The MISTGs shall be responsible for the parameters of the selection of audit candidates, as they have the resources and the data bank in terms of all possible candidates falls under the customs audit. The PCAG-TERAO will be the one who will create the audit program and the MISTG will coordinate with them. So let's proceed to C. Recommend for approval of the Commissioner of Customs the potential priority of audit candidates. Approval of the Commissioner of Customs allow reduction of control activities at the border and at the time of arrival of goods to only this necessary to determine the admissibility of the goods. The PCAG-TERAO together with the MISTG were able to submit the audit candidates for the customs audit. This will undergo some reading as this subject for approval of the Commissioner. Once approved, the PCAG-TERAO will endorse the selected candidates of PCAG-CAO for audit process, as they were the one who will be responsible for actual audit in the principal place of business or industry. So the fourth one is letter D. Develop policies, guideline, manuals, and standard operation procedure relating to the audit process. That is one of the most important part in custom industry. Abiding the policies make the work faster. With due process of law, it can prevent wrong activities such as fraud and other illegal acts. The PCAG-TERAO shall responsible for creating the implementing rules and regulations to audit process, as the PCAG-CAO will guide in terms of the direction in conducting the actual audit. The PCAG-TERAO is also responsible in terms of implementation of audit program, particularly in the strategic planning and risk management. The audit process includes the scope, potential risks, and the objective working plan, selection, procedure, and techniques. And the last but not the least, the E, perform the other function as may be necessary. Perform such other function as may be necessary or incidental potential priority audit candidates, procedure relating to audit process, and carrying into effect of provision of this order as may be provided by the law. On the other hand, the PCAG-CAO shall perform the following function. A. Prepare the audit work plan. Preparing the audit work plan, scope, and approach for the approved priority audit candidates. Planning your audit ensures that all areas of the process are covered and given appropriate attention. It can also help you identify the potential problem or obstacles with the auditing process. Map out activities so that it will carried out timely way, and manage your audit workflow with maximum efficiency. The PCAG-CAO will be responsible for the providing report and recommendation to issue A&L. They must conduct first their initial audit, meeting, and responsible to have coordination with the other customs units. On the other hand, letter B, they conduct the audit examination. Conducted the audit examination, inspection, verification, or investigation of records subject to applicable laws, approved policies, guidelines, manual, and standard operating procedures. The PCAG-CAO conducts customs audit particularly on the principal place of business, as they are the one who is positioned to conduct the audit proper. They have adhere the audit techniques and tools that what the PCAG-TIRAO have created and their basis and direction of the whole duration of the audit process. The officers who were under the PCAG-CAO must follow the basic guidelines and etiquette for the audit proper. Third one is C. Prepare and submit the required reports on the audit findings and recommendations to the Commissioner of Customs for approval. Why it is important? It is because it is subjected for the review in order to verify the findings of the audit. The PCAG-CAO is responsible to endorse the audit findings that entails the audit satisfactory, observation, and recommendation made and submit this to the commissioners. The fourth one is D. Establish and maintain the customs compliance program. Enforcing compliance help you, the company, to prevent and detect violation of rules, which protect your organization from fines and lawsuits. The compliance process should be ongoing. Many organizations establish the program of consistently and accurately govern their compliance policies over time. That is one of the objectives of the Bureau as to maintain the compliance measures of every importer to the company that holds different transactions under the Bureau of Customs. This method considered as one of the essential tools ensuring that the customs controls are effective, including compliance and the WTO Customs Valuation Agreement and the effectiveness customs risk management strategy. And lastly, the letter E, to perform such other function as may be necessary to incidental in carrying into effect the provision of this order as may provided by the law. So that is my discussion for today. I hope you learned something and have a great day.
Scope of audit. The scope of audit basically tells how the auditees importers are to be selected using the computer-aided risk-based management systems that is going to be developed by the Management Information Systems and Technology Group in coordination with the Post-Clearance Audit Group, Trade Information and Risk Analysis Office. Apart from that, it also provides the Commissioner the authority to initiate the conduct of PCA on any entities within the customs jurisdiction that are engaging in the customs clearance processes, which includes all importers, locators, specific groups of importers, or other parties as he may deem necessary. Accordingly, the computer-aided risk-based management systems and the commissioner shall select the auditee using any but not limited to the following criteria. First, relative magnitude of customs revenue to be generated from the firm. Second, the rates of duties of the firm's imports. Third, the compliance track records of the firm. Fourth, an assessment of the risk to revenue of the firm's import activities. Fifth, the compliance level of the trade sector. And sixth, the renewal of an importer's customs accreditation. The post-clearance audit is generally conducted on all importers that are identified using the computer-aided risk-based management systems. However, the audit team may include the customs brokers and other duly authorized agents of the auditee in order to validate the submitted documents and as well as fill all information gaps during the audit. To conclude, the scope of audit basically covers the amount of time, the auditees, the criteria in selecting the parties, and the documents which are going to be involved in the conduct of the post-clearance audit PCA.
Profiling or information analysis. The PCAG-TIRAO shall perform risk profiling analysis activities on the importers, which includes data gathering and evaluation of imports and export operations. Common information in performing profiling analysis will include capital and volume of importations, company structure, business partners such as suppliers, agents, and customers, the type of transactions, method of payments, and amounts of duties paid. We have past audits, records if there's any, and other related information. Audit notification. So we have this what we called audit notification letter or ANL, and it contains the name or names of the authorized customs personnel from PCAG-CAO to perform clearance audit. It is valid for 30 days, 30 calendar days from the date of the issuance. For those subject to revalidations by the Assistant Commissioner for another 30 days prior to expiry, served to the importer through the following modes of service. So we have by personal service at the principal place of the business. We have through registered email and by electronic notice sent to the registered official electronic mail address.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lynireca Lovete, and I am the next reporter for the Section 5 of CAO 1 of 2019. So, first, I am discussing about the Section 5 of the CAO 1 of 2019, particularly on the subsections 5.5, which is the audit plan, and the 5.6, which is the audit proper. So in audit plan, so the audit team shall prepare an audit plan to fit the circumstances of the audited company and meet the specific audit objectives in the most expeditious and transparent manner. So the audit team that were responsible for this is the unit of PCAG under the CAO, which is the PCAG-CAO Compliance Assessment Office, as they were the assigned personnel to conduct the audit proper among the selected auditees. So the PCAG-CAO has created the audit plan in order for the team to be guided in having the direction of what were the things that they need to consider as to attain the objectives of the Bureau, particularly on the compliance system that adheres to the customs laws and regulations. So the PCAG-CAO were responsible and shall conduct the audit. But first, they have to consider some of things. So first thing is the initial audit meeting. So this is done with the authorized personnel under the PCAG-CAO, as they were able to have a collective assessment and work plan arrangement as to consider the policies, guidelines, manual, and the standard operating procedures that the PCAG-TIRAO had already created. This has to consider that they were employed personnel under this PCAG-CAO, as they were efficient and can handle the audit throughout the prescribed allotted time frame. This meeting also takes the chances that the team must work together as they can accomplish the task in timely manner. And next is the audit techniques and tools. So these are the ethical and the professionalism of every PCAG-CAO personnel, as they were established their honesty and dedication to their work and their responsibilities as they bring to this matter. So in the audit techniques and tools, so there are the following basic guidelines of every auditor must have to consider. First, they have to foster a cooperative relationship. So establishing teamwork and camaraderie between the member and the team will attain its success throughout the audit. So each team has to consider in hearing other people's side and able to follow instructions carefully. Second, auditors should positively guide the auditee regarding the declaration of errors that caused by the lack of understanding of laws and regulations. So the PCAG-CAO must be free from any errors or mistakes in conducting the audit. Qualifications of being one of the PCAG personnel must put into consideration by the Bureau, as they will select the efficient and the brilliant person who can carry into this responsibility, because ignorance of the law is no excuse. Third one, auditors must refrain from revealing their professional impressions to the auditee during the course of audit. So in this case, the auditors must not establish relationship within the auditee, since this is one of the main causes that some of the audits were fabricated, as this the auditee can alter the decision of the auditor through the temptation of money. Thus, the PCAG-CAO must adhere to the principle of goodness, that he or she may be able to carry his principle and dignity in giving the rightful evaluation and the decision as to see the audit findings that will be reflected in the audit reports. So lastly, maintain a professional and courteous attitude towards the auditee. So in every work arrangement, so the personnel must maintain its courtesy and respect by maintaining professionalism in the workplace. Objectives of the audit proper. So the auditor verifies the truthfulness and accuracy as declared in terms of, first, they have customs value, or there will be no understatement of the value as declared in the goods declaration. Next is the declaration of the correct volume as to the quantity of how much would be the exact amount that is being seen on the customs declaration as compared to the actual transshipments. Then the quality, which comprises the good standard of a product, which is not substandard or not a second hand. So in the measurement, there will be an accurate measurement in terms of the length, width, or any other measurements of the particular goods. So lastly, the volume, which is comprises mostly of the how much would be the weight of the commodity, as this must be declared same as the customs declaration. So last is the correct rate or the correct classification of tariffs of the goods declaration. So if the auditor finds any discrepancies that were violated by the customs laws, that's saying there are the three penalties, or the three considered the violations is the misdeclaration, misclassification, or undervaluation. So the auditee shall be liable in facing the consequences in terms of the criminal penalty and punishment. So in the subsections 5.6, particularly in the audit proper. So the conduct of the audit proper. So first, the audit team commenced the audit proper not later than the 60 calendar days from the service of the audit notification letter. So as the PCAG-TIRAO already submitted the qualified list of auditee candidates for the customs audit, so this was recommended by the Assistant Commissioner, and the Commissioner now shall be responsible as he or she will be issuing the audit notification letter to the auditee candidates. So the PCAG-CAO personnel now have to take note that there must be a notification from the Bureau that the customs audit must take into action not later than 60 days from the service of the audit notification letter. So with that, the PCAG-CAO must be ready for the audit proper to be taken into action. So in this case, that the importer may avail directly to the prior disclosure program, so the conduct of audit will falls under the Section 6 of the CAO 1 of 2019. Conducts examination, inspection, verification, and investigation of records kept by importer. So in conducting the audit proper of the PCAG-CAO to the respective auditee, so the Bureau now has the power to access the records, stating herein that the importer shall give to the Bureau personnel the authorized to conduct the full audit, the full and free access to all premises where the records are kept by the principal place of business. Also, they also have to provide the full and free access to the cloud-based data room or the private server or in other devices. So the audit team now has to consider that the importer may provide the certified true copies of documents that is submitted for the verification of its authenticity. So considering that a copy of the document that is certified on or behalf of the importer is admissible in all courts. So as stated also in CAO 1 of 2019 in Section 4, subsection 4.5, so the audit proper shall take place when the audit team actually conducts the examination, inspection, verification, and investigation, particularly on the accounting records, the financial records, the goods declaration, and other records that is needed to be kept and maintained by the importer. The first thing to do is to have the examination. So verification in terms of the customs value. So this assess that there will be no misdeclaration, misclassification, and undervaluation that is found in every import transactions and shipments. So the PCAO, particularly checking the price negotiation and discounts, the terms of sale, the payment terms, additional terms, and any other separate payments that has been made. Then second, after evaluating all the pertaining records that is required for the customs audit, so the recording now and the review will take place as the third-party audit and the physical inspection or control is requested upon or if necessary. So this is the thing that the auditor has requested or requesting the auditee if there were some points that is need to have a physical view or inspection as to attest the accuracy of every declaration that was presented in every customs declaration. So this slide presents the PCAO that created a set of checklists that answers the statement provided, as this is the basis and the rating of every auditor in each candidate was attest if they are really legally practicing the customs laws and in practicing the customs declaration in the Bureau of Customs. So this contains the different questions that covers the whole audit process and information that is needed to attest in each auditee candidates. So this also are the set of standards of what the PCAO created, as this is put into consideration by the PCAO in taking the whole audit in every auditee. So this data is coming from the Post-Clearance Audit Group Manual 2 of the World Customs Organization. So the audit shall completed within 120 calendar days per year of audit period from the date of receipt of the audit notification letter of the importer. So the PCAO must be responsible for the timely manner of finishing the audit because it only takes about 4 calendar months that in every auditee has to capture the documents under the audit process. When the audit was completed, so the PCAO must present first the audit satisfactory, observation, and any other recommendations that is made by the auditor within the audit process. Then, the audit is considered to be completed under the stage of audit proper when there were submission of the final report or final audit report with the demand letter or the PCAG CRF or the PCAG clean report of findings that were submitted by the audit team. And this is being endorsed by the Assistant Commissioner and approved by the Commissioner of Customs. So it is either that the auditee will be issuing a final audit report with a demand letter or the PCAG clean report of findings. So the issuance of the final audit report with a demand letter, this is considered to be the status of the audit completed as the auditors found not so much discrepancies that reflects as compared to the declared amount of the goods declaration as compared to the customs PCAO audit findings. So the demand letter consists that there were few amounts that the auditee needs to pay to the Bureau. So considering that the customs officials take the responsibility in notifying each candidate for the demand letter for the payment of discrepancy. So the recipients must adhere that the payment for the outstanding amount was required to be fully paid and settled within 15 calendar days after the receipt of the demand letter to the auditee. So based on the discrepancies that may be claimed to be negligence, there will be discrepancies about around 20%. So if these discrepancies will be increased more than 20%, so this is considered to be fraud and they have to face the criminal consequences as they may pay for any penalties or additional taxes and surcharges to be imposed. So in terms naman for PCAG clean report of findings, so this issuance shall be deemed as a proof of the importer or the entity that is subject for audit that has been no found in discrepancy in duties, taxes, and other charges. So the auditee now is compliant with the obligation to keep records as required by the law. So therefore, the auditee is the auditee will no need to pay for any fees as he or she complies with all the pertaining customs laws and regulations. So if the auditor was not able to finish the audit progress or audit proper during the 120 calendar days as um, given by the Bureau to the auditor, so the auditor now may have to send or submit a status report through the Assistant Commissioner and directly to the Commissioner not later than 5 calendar days prior to the expiration of the said period. So, this may give way to the auditor that they have the extension of the audit proper. So this must be filed before the 5 remaining days from the time of the expiration of the audited period. So this is maybe also included that the submission of the status report will be earlier than the 5 calendar days. So this must also state the reasons why of non-completion, including the proposed period to finish the audit. So taking into consideration that they were only allowed to have a 1 month or 30 calendar days to complete the audit. So when the CAO already finished the customs audit, so they are required to submit the final audit report with the demand letter or the PCAG clean report of findings, as this was be submitted and endorsed by the Assistant Commissioner upon the under the Commissioner, and this is also approved by the Commissioner of Customs. So then that is how the conduct of audits started and ended. That is the part of my report, and the next reporter will be discussing about the remaining topics, particularly covering the section 5, which is the post-clearance audit. Thank you.
Good day, I am Hazel Mae GAGAMA, and I'm going to discuss the conduct of post-clearance audits, specifically letter E and F of the Customs Administrative Order 1/2018, which is the service of demand letter for payment of deficiency and reconsideration or investigation of audit findings. So for letter E, the service of demand letter for payment of deficiency. So first, let us define what is a demand letter. Well, a demand letter is a formal document sent from one party to another to resolve a dispute. The sending party may send one asking payment or another action to correct a mistake or settle a dispute. So, a demand letter were issued by the post-clearance audit group, specifically the Compliance Assessment Office, as they were the ones who were responsible in issuing this when they found discrepancies in terms of the amount that was reflected and declared by the importer or by the licensed customs broker. Thus, the importer or any other is subjected to pay and collect the outstanding amount discrepancy between the declared value as compared to the customs auditor's computation. And it also includes the payment of penalties. So, within 5 calendar days from the receipt of the demand letter signed by the Commissioner, the post-clearance audit group shall send the same to the importer through any of the following modes of service. So, the first one is by personal service at the principal place of business. So, again, a principal place of business is a company's primary location where its business is performed. This is generally where the business books and records are kept and is often where the head of the firm or other senior management are located. This place takes place when the customs employee, particularly the messenger, personally able to send a letter to the receiver. The next mode is by registered mail. So when the principal place of business is located away from the customs office, this option is highly recommendable and preferred. Customs officers will deliver the letter to the recipient's registered mail by post mail in this manner. This is the most convenient and efficient way nowadays. And the last one is through electronic notice sent to the registered official electronic mail address. Through with this, it should be in a way of electronic notice delivered to the official electronic mail address on file. The customs officials will email the demand letter to the receiver. Given the customs authorities are in charge of contacting each candidate for the demand letter of payment of these discrepancies, recipients must adhere to the requirement that the outstanding amount be paid in full and settled within 15 calendar days from receiving the demand letter. And if the customs personnel were not able to deliver his or her obligations in terms of failure to serve the letter within the period of time without proper justification, he or she may be administratively liable for his or her actions. And the bureau shall immediately send, without the need for a request from the importer, a letter acknowledging receipt of the money made by the importer and stating that the audit was finished and completed. In instances when the importer is not affected by the Bureau's decision and has already paid the differences discovered by the customs, the Bureau must first verify the payment and the entire amount covered and paid in full. The Bureau will then have notified the recipient by giving them an acknowledging receipt indicating that the audit has been completed and that all discrepancies have been resolved, along with fines for various penalties that have been charged to this case. To proceed with the next steps, let us first define what is the reconsideration of audit findings. So, according to CAO 1 2018 Section 3 of Definition of Terms, this shall refer to the plea for the re-evaluation of the audit findings on the basis of existing records without the need of available evidence. And this may involve both a question of fact or of law or both. So this is done when a specific importer has been affected as a result of the Bureau's decision and outcome regarding a specific issue. The importer has the right to make a motion for reconsideration, which will enable the Bureau to re-examine the judgment and weigh in both parties' decisions without the need to present proof. So there are three. It may be a question of law, a question of fact, or both a question of law or a question of fact. In question of law, it is the court's responsibility to determine the law and decide the case accordingly through probable cause special. And in question of fact, it is the role of the court to evaluate the evidence and then come to its conclusion. So next, we should identify also what does investigation of audit findings means. So according again to CAO 1 2019 of the Section 3 Definition of Terms, this refers to the plea for the re-evaluation of the audit findings on the basis of newly discovered or additional evidence intended to be presented in the investigation. It may also involve a question of fact or of law or both. So, in simple terms, this refers to a plea for investigation. So this will ensure that the importer may file, including the evidences to support his or her claim, why she or he needs to be reinvestigated. Next is, for letter F, reconsideration, and investigation on audit findings. The importer adversely affected by the deficiency assessment issued by the post-clearance audit group and approved by the commissioner may file a request for reconsideration or investigation to the commissioner within 15 days from the receipt of the demand letter. The importer has the right to know the results and outcomes of audit findings once the post-clearance audit group compliance assessment office has been completed in the actual audit at the principal place of business, and as customs officers would send and notify them. If the importer was adversely affected with the findings, he or she has 15 days from the date of the receipt of the demand letter to file a motion for reconsideration or a motion for investigation. If the importer fails to file a motion for reconsideration within 15 days, the Bureau's decision will be deemed final and irrevocable within this matter. So this will be the continuation. So for investigation, the importer must present all relevant supporting documentation in support for the request for investigation within 30 days after submitting the request, or the request will be denied. These requests must be met by the importer because customs employees will examine the audit findings based on newly discovered evidence that may support and validate the claims. The Bureau, through the Post-Clearance Audit Group, will have 60 calendar days to respond to the request after receiving all required documentation. The Post-Clearance Audit Group unit and the Customs Office have 60 calendar days after receiving the motion for reconsideration or the motion for reinvestigation to issue their findings and decisions in these matters. And additional information from the guidelines for the post-clearance audit, Volume 2, irregularities. This means that the breach of laws and regulations, regardless of its cause, such as deliberate intention by the means of fraud, negligence, or simple mistakes or error. In most cases, the Bureau had to evaluate irregularities in the claim customs value, quantity, and customs classification when dealing with enormous requests for reconsideration or investigation. And because certain transactions were bound to have these irregularities, the importer must consider adhering to the legal basis of declaring the amount of every transaction and shipment in order to avoid any delays or number of days to render in terms of taking this matter to a higher court of authority. And in this slide, you can see the three commonly irregularities with its meaning. Fraud, which means the willful intent of a taxpayer to evade the tax. Negligence, it means the lack of due care or failure to do what a reasonable and ordinarily prudent person would do under the given circumstances. And error, this can be simple mistakes. This means a mistakes in customs declaration. And again, this is Hazel Marie GAGAMA, and that would be all. Have a good day.
So one of the conduct of post-clearance audit is acknowledgement letter. By following payment of the sum sought, the Bureau will issue a letter recognizing receipt of the payment made by the importer along with a statement that the audit is complicated without the need for a request from the importer. And also for the reporting to DOF and BAR, the Bureau must provide a copy of the final audit result to the DOF and the BRR within 30 calendar days of their release, including the amount paid by the importer. In addition, the Bureau must furnish the DOF with a quarterly progress report on all ANLS issued in audits undertaken. Thank you.
Section of CAO 1 2019, which is the access to records, pertains to the general rule that orders importers to give access of the records. To conduct audit, these said documents are document flow, financial flow, goods inventory, and other business process. The authorized bureau personnel will gather data to analyze security violations. It is important to both auditors and the department to have an accurate objective in finding conclusion. To that end, it is important to ensure auditors have the necessary access to request information and records to ascertain goods declaration are correct and taxes on the onset importations are accurate.
Documents written in a foreign language. Where a document in a foreign language is presented to the customs officers in relation to the carrying out of any duty or the exercises of any power of the Bureau of Customs, said document must be accompanied with a translation in English, certified correct under oath by a translator accredited by the Department of Foreign Affairs or by the relevant foreign embassy or consular office. Customs officers frequently see the documents that are written in a foreign language. By this, the international documents that follow the language English are also known. Customs officers will take over in respect to the Bureau of Customs activities, and those documents will be accepted in our country if they entirely translated into English and translated by subjected persons or personnel in our country. The Department of Foreign Affairs will handle these documents as well, and the foreign embassies will allow and accept documents as well. But yes, consular offices will be open to accept documents written in another country. As a result, we can guarantee that cargoes will enter our country legally.
For Section 5.8, or the power of the Commissioner to obtain information and issue summons. So the Commissioner may obtain on a regular basis from any person who is subject of the post-clearance audit or investigation any information involved in the importation or exportation of imported goods or manufactured product from imported component materials. This include the BSP, GOCC, and local government agencies. So the Commissioner may summon the person liable for duties and taxes or required to file goods declaration, or any person having custody or care of the books of accounts and other accounting records relating to the business of the person liable for duties and taxes. The said person should produce such books, papers, records, or other data and to give testimony. So the person concerned must take an oath of his her testimony as may be relevant to such inquiry. So the Commissioner may also obtain information from banks or other financial institutions specifically to payment relevant to import transaction.